Hello everybody, welcome back to another week of learning. You might be wondering who I am. My name is Miss Brading and I'm the new class teacher in River Dolphins class. So I just wanted to come on and introduce myself before we started our learning for this week. So I understand that you have been learning about the Romans, which is interesting actually, as I had an email from the Roman army today telling me some really sad news that unfortunately at the weekend they were defeated in a really big battle. Lots of their weapons have been destroyed, their armor's been damaged, there's lots of injuries, and they've had to go back to camp to try and think of ways that they can be more successful next time. Now, according to the leader of the army, he thinks that perhaps their weapons weren't strong enough to defeat the enemies, and he's asked me whether I can ask you if you can help the Roman army to improve their weapons and armor for their next battle. So your task for this week is you are going to create your own piece of armour or weapon that could be used in a Roman battle. Now, because the Roman army have been defeated in their battle, they're unable to go back home yet, so they're just in their camp, and they haven't got all of the normal materials that they would usually have when creating their weapon and armour. So with that being said, the way that we are going to create our weapon and armour is we are going to use items around the home to do this, and I will show you some examples of the things that we can use a bit later on in this video. Now, before we choose which materials we are going to use to create our own weapons and armour, we're going to have to do an investigation and find out which are the strongest pieces of material that we can use. Because if we're making weapon and armour, we want to have really strong material so that next time when the Romans go to battle, they won't be defeated and they will win. So today we are going to be doing an investigation with different materials around the home to find out which is the strongest piece of material that we can use to create our weapon and armour. We're going to have to do a fair test because we're going to be trying lots of different pieces, and we need to do a fair test to ensure that we are making an accurate judgment of the different materials. I'm going to show you how you can start your investigation. Now, you are going to need an object that is quite heavy for this investigation, something like a stone or a rock if you've got a garden. Unfortunately, I live in a flat, so I don't have access to a garden, but in my fridge this morning, I found quite a heavy lemon. So I'm going to use a lemon as my object of choice to test the strength of different materials. So I've got 3 pieces of materials lined up to show you today. I have got a kitchen roll tube, I have got a piece of white card, and I have got some tin foil. What I am going to do with each of these materials is I'm going to drop the lemon onto them 3 times and have a look at what happens when I do that to see the strength of each material. Let's start with the kitchen roll tube. So my kitchen roll tube, it feels quite flimsy. It doesn't feel the strongest, but this is what it looks like. Let's see what happens when I drop the lemon onto it. So I'm going to hold it still in case it goes a little bit wobbly, and I'm just going to drop the lemon onto it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now, if we have a look at the kitchen roll tube, we can see that it is a little bit more squished than it was to start with. This part here that was more circular is a lot closer together. It was like this, and we can see that it's now been squashed a little bit like that. So, possibly not the strongest piece of material that we have. Let's try another one. So, I'm going to try the tin foil next. So here's my piece of tin foil. It's quite thin, feels quite flimsy, but let's see what happens because it is flat, so it's not going to squish into itself. But we'll see how strong it is against the lemon. So again, I'm going to drop it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Now, nothing's broken in the tin foil and it's stayed together, but if you look closely, can you see that there are some marks that have been made in the middle here? So I do wonder if I was to drop the lemon a few more times, whether in time that would eventually break up or whether it would stay together, because it does look a little bit dented at the moment. My third piece of material that I've got is this piece of white card. Now this is a cardboard envelope. It feels a lot firmer than the kitchen roll did. It doesn't really bend when you move it. It bends slightly, but it's quite difficult to really push it into each other. Let's see what happens when we drop the lemon on top of it. 1, 2, 3. Not much change there, to be honest. It looks fairly similar. I can't see any dents or marks on it. It looks okay. Another thing you can think about when you're testing materials is if one material isn't strong enough on its own, but you have a stronger material here, perhaps you could think about layering different materials on top of each other. So I've got my tin foil, which it didn't break, but it did dent very easily. But perhaps we could layer that on top of this cardboard envelope, or a piece of other strong card or plastic or wood if you've got anything in your garden. Perhaps we could layer it on top and use it as an extra layer to our armour. Because if we have an extra layer, then the first layer might get dented, but it might take a lot longer to dent the bottom layer. And that's something that's quite crucial when we're thinking about armour and weaponry, because we want to make things strong enough that they're not going to break very easily. So hopefully then the Romans can win their battle. I'm now going to show you my computer where I'm going to give you an overview of the task that I want you to do today. Okay, so just a recap of our task for today then. We are going to investigate the strength of different materials to use to create our Roman weaponry and armour later in the week. I want you to have a look around your house to see if you have any materials that you could use in your investigation. I've written some ideas down here for you. So kitchen roll, toilet paper tubes, tin foil, paper towels, any wood from the garden, sticks and things like that, any plastic, any food packaging or cardboard. Cereal boxes work really well for cardboard, or anything else that you might find that you want to investigate. We need to remember to make it a fair test. So we're going to need to have an object to test the strength of our materials. I used the lemon, but you might have some stones or something. And you need to use the same object for each piece of material to make it a fair test. I tested mine 3 times as well, just so I could get an accurate idea of how it would be. I would also like you to create a table for your results. So as you can see in the first column, I've got the name of the material that I've used. In the middle, I've put the strength rating out of 10. So 10 would be the strongest material and 1 would be the weakest. And then I would like you to draw or write some notes about what it looked like after the investigation. So did it stay the same? Did you make any indents on it? Did it break up completely? Have a look and jot down some notes that you can use when you are then planning your design later on in the week. I've used 3, but you can use as many materials as you like. Once you have done this, you can write a conclusion with your recommendation for the Roman army. So for example, after completing this investigation, I have found out that tin foil is not the strongest material. However, when I layer it onto a stronger piece of cardboard, it works well, for example. You might have different recommendations and different conclusions, but give it a go. I hope you have fun with your investigation, and I'm looking forward to seeing your finished designs at the end of the week. Have fun and see you soon.